The massive conference hall on Nexus Prime stretched for kilometers, filled with representatives from every corner of the galaxy. Thousands of different alien species gathered in their ceremonial robes and advanced armor suits, their voices creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and harmonic tones. At the very back of the enormous chamber, almost hidden behind towering pillars of crystalline architecture, sat the human delegation. Captain Lee Min-ho adjusted his simple military uniform and tried not to feel out of place. Around him, aliens with multiple arms gestured dramatically, while others floated in containment fields filled with exotic gases. Some had scales that shifted color with their emotions, while others looked like walking trees made of living metal. The humans, with their basic bipedal forms and cloth uniforms, seemed primitive by comparison. "Look at them," whispered Admiral Vex Thara of the Hegemony Navy to his aide. His 6 eyes focused on the human section with obvious amusement. "They still wear fabric clothing and carry projectile weapons. I heard their fastest ships barely reach half-light speed." Commander Yoon So-jin, Earth's military representative, caught fragments of the conversation. Her translator device worked perfectly, ensuring she understood every insult. She had been attending these gatherings for 3 years now, ever since humanity had been granted junior membership in the Galactic Empire. The treatment never changed. The Zephyrian delegation laughed openly as they discussed human technology. Their leader, a tall being with crystalline skin, made exaggerated gestures mimicking human clumsiness. "Metal hulls," he said with disgust. "Can you imagine? They actually build their ships from raw metal like ancient savages." Other species joined the mockery. The Etherians, beings of pure energy contained in elegant mechanical bodies, found human reliance on solid matter particularly amusing. The insectoid hive lords clicked their mandibles in what passed for laughter among their kind. Lee Min-ho kept his expression neutral. He had learned that reacting to such comments only made things worse. Earth needed this alliance, even if it meant enduring constant humiliation. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, filled with threats that humanity could not face alone. The great ceremony began with displays of military might from each major species. Holographic projections showed fleets of thousands of vessels, each one a masterpiece of advanced technology. Energy weapons that could crack planets, shields that bent space itself, and ships that moved faster than light without the crude hyperspace tunnels humans relied upon. When Earth's turn came, the presentation was brief and underwhelming. A handful of ships, built from steel and titanium, armed with missiles and magnetic accelerator guns. The alien audience barely paid attention. Regent Kolmar, the supreme leader of the Galactic Empire, finally addressed the crisis that had brought them. All together, the Void Syndicate, a collection of pirate fleets, had been raiding outer rim colonies for months. Entire worlds had been stripped of resources, their populations enslaved or killed. "The time has come for decisive action," Kolmar announced, his voice carrying across the vast chamber through advanced sound manipulation technology. "Every member species will contribute to the expeditionary force that will end this threat." The great powers immediately began volunteering massive fleets. The Hegemony offered 300 warships. The Zephyrian Republic pledged 500 of their fastest cruisers. The Etherian Collective promised to send their most advanced energy-based vessels. When the focus turned to the minor species, the numbers dropped significantly. Worlds that had only recently achieved spaceflight could offer little more than cargo ships converted for military use. "Earth," Regent Kolmar said, without looking in their direction, "will provide 1 vessel to the expedition. Report to fleet." Admiral Zethkai at Kepler Station within 10 standard cycles. The alien delegates burst into laughter. 1 ship from humanity meant to join a fleet of thousands. It was clearly intended as a token gesture, a way to technically include Earth in the alliance while expecting nothing of value in return. Captain Lee Min-ho stood slowly, his movement drawing attention from nearby species who seemed surprised that the humans would bother responding at all. The laughter continued as he prepared to speak. "The Earth Defense Force accepts this assignment," he said in clear, simple words. "We will send our finest warship to join the expedition." This declaration only increased the amusement. The finest human warship was probably equivalent to an alien patrol boat. Some delegates made jokes about using human vessels as decoys or cannon fodder. Admiral Vexthara leaned toward his aide again. Perhaps we can use their ship to carry supplies. At least then it might serve some purpose before the Syndicate destroys it. Commander Yoon So-jin felt her jaw tighten, but she maintained her diplomatic composure. These aliens had no idea what they were talking about. They assumed that because human technology looked primitive, it was weak. They judged by appearance rather than capability. As the Great Assembly dispersed, species after species filed past the human delegation, without acknowledgement. Plans were already being made for the expedition, with human participation treated as an afterthought. Lee Min-ho gathered his papers and prepared to leave. He had communications to send, orders to relay, and preparations to make. The aliens expected humanity to contribute some outdated patrol craft that would serve as target practice for enemy raiders. They were about to discover how wrong they could be. Fleet Admiral Zethkai stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Stellar Sovereign, watching. The greatest armada in galactic history assemble around Kepler Station. 3,000 vessels stretched across the void in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming like jewels against the starfield. Each ship represented the pinnacle of its species' technology and artistry. The hegemony fleet formed the center formation, their vessels shaped like elegant crescents, with energy fields that rippled with rainbow colors. Zephyrian cruisers looked like living crystals, their transparent hulls revealing complex inner workings that pulsed with blue light. The Etherian ships seemed to be made of pure light itself, barely visible except for the brilliant energy signatures they left in space. "Magnificent," whispered Commander Yoon Ji-woo from the communications station. Her forearms moved gracefully over the control panels as she coordinated messages between the various fleets. Never before have so many species united for a single purpose. Zethkai nodded with satisfaction. The Void Syndicate had terrorized the Outer Rim for too long. This overwhelming display of force would end their threat permanently. His tactical displays showed weapon capabilities that could shatter moons and defensive systems that could withstand stellar radiation. "Sir," called Lieutenant Kexvoll from the sensor station, "we're detecting a hyperspace distortion, massive energy signature approaching from the Sol system direction." The Admiral turned his attention to the main view screen. Space began to ripple and bend as something large prepared to emerge from hyperspace. The energy readings were unlike anything in their databases. "Could it be a Syndicate ambush?" asked Commander Yor Ji-woo, her translator struggling with the technical terms. Before Zethkai could respond, reality tore open and something impossible emerged. The human ship was a monster. 2 kilometers of brutal angles and scarred metal that looked like it had been forged in the core of a dying star. Where alien vessels curved gracefully through space with artistic beauty, this thing was pure function over form. Its hull was dark gray, covered in what looked like battle damage from countless engagements. Weapon ports covered every surface, not the elegant energy projectors favored by advanced civilizations, but crude openings that suggested kinetic weaponry. The ship's design was aggressive and intimidating, like a predator built for war rather than exploration. "By the void," breathed Zethkai. "What classification is that vessel?" His tactical officer, a young hegemony graduate, worked frantically at his console. "Sir, our sensors cannot penetrate their armor plating. The hull appears to be composed of unknown metallic alloys. Energy readings are inconsistent with any technology in our databases. A communication request came through on standard diplomatic channels." The voice that emerged was calm and professional, speaking the common galactic language with a slight accent that marked it as human. "This is Captain Park Dae-hyun of the United Human Star Vessel Indomitable, requesting fleet position, assignment and tactical briefing." Zethkai stared at the massive warship on his screen. According to all intelligence reports, humans were barely capable of interstellar travel. Their largest vessels were supposed to be crude cargo haulers converted for military use. This ship suggested something entirely different. Throughout the assembled fleet, similar conversations were taking place. Alien commanders who had been joking about human participation now found themselves studying tactical displays with growing concern. Admiral Vexthara to Fleet Command, came a transmission from the Hegemony Formation. Are we certain this vessel is from Earth? It does not match any human ship in our intelligence files. Captain Park's voice came through again. Fleet Admiral Zethkai, the Indomitable is ready to receive orders and coordinate with Allied forces. Zethkai made a decision that would later prove significant. Captain Park, you are assigned to rear. Guard position. Maintain distance from primary battle formations and provide support as needed. It was meant as an insult, placing the humans far from the main action where they could do little damage to the fleet's coordinated tactics. But Zethkai was also uncomfortable with what he could not understand, and keeping the unknown ship at a distance seemed wise. Understood, Fleet Admiral. The Indomitable will take assigned position. The massive human vessel began moving toward the rear of the formation. Its engines, unlike the clean energy drives used by advanced species, burned, with nuclear fire that painted space in brilliant orange and white. The acceleration was impressive for such a large ship, suggesting power systems far beyond what humans were supposed to possess. As the Indomitable settled into its position, every officer in the fleet found their attention drawn to the human Dreadnought. The ship's presence changed something fundamental about the assembled armada. Where before they had felt like an elegant parade of technological achievement, now they felt like they were preparing for actual war. Commander Yunji Wu reviewed the tactical data with growing amazement. Sir, the human vessel masses more than our 3 largest battleships combined, and these weapon signatures we're detecting, what about them? Zethkai asked. I do not recognize the technology, but the power readings suggest weapons capable of planetary bombardment. The fleet. Admiral studied the scarred hull of the human ship through his view screen. Battle damage, he had assumed. But looking more carefully, he began to wonder if those marks told a different story. Not damage received, but evidence of battles fought and won. For the first time since the expedition began, Zethkai felt uncertain about what they were facing. The key Void Syndicate struck without warning at the Nexus Gate, their black ships materializing from hyperspace like shadows given form. Warlord Grixtal commanded the attack from his flagship, a vessel built from the bones of conquered worlds and powered by the screams of enslaved populations. Begin the harvest, he commanded through his ship's communication system. His voice carried the cold satisfaction of a predator who had trapped his prey perfectly. The Syndicate fleet moved with practiced precision. 40 years of piracy had taught them exactly how to break apart organized formations. Their ships were built for speed and stealth, designed to hit hard and disappear before enemies could respond effectively. Fleet Admiral Zethkai watched in horror as his perfect formation crumbled within minutes. The elegant Imperial vessels, built as much for ceremony as combat, found their energy shields overwhelmed by concentrated plasma barrages. The Syndicate ships moved like a pack of wolves, targeting the weakest points and exploiting every tactical mistake. Hull breach on decks 7 through 12, reported Lieutenant Kim Hyun-woo from the Stellar Sovereign's damage control station. Alarms blared throughout the bridge, as structural integrity warnings flashed on every screen. We're losing atmospheric pressure in the forward sections. The Zephyrian cruisers, pride of their crystalline navy, began shattering under focused fire. Their beautiful transparent hulls, designed to show off advanced technology, became death traps as plasma beams found their way through energy barriers that had never faced such brutal assault. This is Admiral Vexthara, came a panicked transmission from the Hegemony Formation. My flagship is taking critical damage. We need immediate support. But support was not coming. Across the fleet, species after species broke formation to protect their own vessels. The Etherian destroyers, beings of pure energy and mechanical bodies, found their elegant forms dissolving under the Syndicate's crude but effective weapons. Captain Park Dae-hyun watched the chaos unfold from the Indomitable's bridge, positioned far behind the main battle as ordered. His tactical displays showed the systematic destruction of the Galactic fleet with clinical precision. Sir, said Commander Han So-young from her position at the weapons console, the Imperial formation is collapsing. They're not coordinating their defense properly. The Syndicate tactics were simple but devastating. Hit the command ships first, break communication between fleet elements, then hunt down scattered vessels one by one. It was piracy on a massive scale, and they had perfected their methods through decades of practice. Park watched as escape pods began streaming from burning Imperial vessels. The Syndicate was not taking prisoners. Raiders moved systematically through the debris field, destroying lifeboats and capturing anything valuable for their slave markets. Fleet Admiral Zethkai, Park said into his communication system, requesting permission to engage the enemy. The response came through static and interference from the damaged Imperial flagship. Negative, human vessel. Maintain rearguard position. One ship cannot turn the tide of this battle. The transmission cut as another Syndicate salvo found its mark on the Stellar Sovereign. Through his view screen, Park could see the great ship listing to one side. Its beautiful hull cracked open like an egg. Lieutenant Park Min-seo, the youngest officer on the bridge, looked up from her sensor station. "Captain, I'm reading over. 300 escape pods in the water. The Syndicate ships are hunting them down." Commander Han So-young turned to face her captain. The question was clear in her eyes, even though military protocol demanded they follow orders and stay in position. But watching Allied personnel die while they sat idle was not something any human officer could tolerate. Park studied the tactical display one more time. The Syndicate fleet had spread out to maximize their hunting efficiency, picking off scattered Imperial vessels. Their formation was loose, confident, predatory. They had never faced an opponent who fought back with real determination. All hands. "This is the captain," Park announced over the ship's internal communication system. "Battle stations. Prepare for combat engagement." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. Unlike the elegant automated systems of Imperial vessels, the Indomitable required human hands on every control station. Weapons officers loaded ammunition manually. Engineers monitored reactor temperatures by reading physical gauges. Everything was built for reliability rather than convenience. "Sir," called Lieutenant Kim Jae-won from the navigation station, "Fleet Admiral Zethkai is ordering us to maintain position." Park looked at the view screen showing Imperial survivors dying in space while their attackers celebrated victory. His decision was not difficult. "Communications are experiencing technical difficulties," he said calmly. "We cannot receive clear orders at this time." The crew understood immediately. Commander Han So-young began targeting solutions for the nearest Syndicate vessels. Lieutenant Park Min-seo coordinated with the fighter bay to prepare launch sequences. Every human on the bridge knew what they were about to do. The Indomitable's massive engines ignited with nuclear fire, pushing the 2-kilometer warship toward the enemy fleet's center. The acceleration was impressive for such a large vessel, suggesting power systems far beyond normal human capabilities. Warlord Grixtal noticed the approaching human ship on his tactical display. After 40 years of successful raids, he found the sight amusing rather than threatening. "One vessel thinks to challenge us?" he laughed to his bridge crew. "Destroy it quickly and return to collecting the survivors. These primitives will learn what happens to those who interfere with the Syndicate." He had no idea what was about to hit him. The Indomitable accelerated directly toward the heart of the Syndicate fleet, its massive nuclear engines painting space with brilliant orange fire. Warlord Grixtal watched the approaching human vessel with casual amusement from his command throne, built from the skulls of defeated enemies. "Look at this foolish primitive," he said to his bridge crew, his voice filled with 40 years of confidence. "One ship against our entire fleet. The humans must be even more stupid than we thought." His tactical officer, a scarred veteran of countless raids, studied the approaching vessel through their targeting systems. "My lord, the ship is larger than our intelligence suggested. Should we concentrate fire?" Grixtal waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Use standard attack patterns. We need to finish this quickly and return to harvesting the survivors. There are profits to be made from Imperial escape pods." The first Syndicate salvo struck the human Dreadnought with enough plasma energy to vaporize a small moon. The concentrated beams that had torn through elegant Imperial shields hit the Indomitable's dark hull and accomplished absolutely nothing. The energy simply dispersed across armor plating that seemed to absorb the attack without effort. "Impossible," breathed the tactical officer, checking his readings twice. Our weapons had no effect at all. Captain Park Dae-hyun stood calmly on his bridge, watching the enemy fire wash harmlessly over his ship's hull. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency at their stations. No panic, no shouting, just professional determination. "Return fire," Park ordered in a calm voice. "Full broadside." The Indomitable's railguns spoke with thunder that shook space itself. These were weapons the galaxy had abandoned centuries ago as primitive and inefficient. Kinetic projectiles, they said, were crude compared to elegant energy beams. The civilized species had moved beyond such barbaric tools. They were catastrophically wrong. Depleted uranium slugs, accelerated to significant fractions of light speed, punched through syndicate energy shields as if they did not exist. The first, Raider ship simply ceased to exist, torn apart at the molecular level by impact forces that defied comprehension. "What just happened?" Grixtel demanded, staring at empty space where one of his best vessels had been moments before. Before anyone could answer, the human ship fired again and again. Each shot was precisely aimed, each impact devastating beyond belief. Ships that had terrorized the Outer Rim for decades were being destroyed faster than their crews could react. Commander Lee Soo-min coordinated the missile volleys from her tactical station aboard the Indomitable. Nuclear warheads launched in overwhelming numbers, their primitive fission reactions creating explosions that the Syndicate's point defense systems were never designed to handle. "Missile impact in 3 seconds, she announced calmly. "Target is the enemy flagship." Warlord Grixtel watched dozens of primitive nuclear missiles approaching his vessel. His defensive systems, designed to intercept elegant energy projectiles, tried desperately to target the incoming warheads. Most of the missiles were destroyed, but enough survived to complete their mission. The explosions that followed lit up space like a newborn star. Nuclear fire washed over the Syndicate flagship, overwhelming shields and armor that had never faced such raw, brutal force. The ship survived, but barely, its hull cracked and bleeding atmosphere into space. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel," Grixtel screamed into his communication system. His calm confidence had been replaced by desperate rage. "Destroy it now!" The entire Syndicate fleet turned its attention to the lone human ship. Hundreds of plasma beams and particle cannons focused their fire on the Indomitable, creating an energy storm that should have reduced any vessel to floating debris. The human Dreadnought absorbed the punishment and kept fighting. Its armor, forged from earth steel and human stubbornness, held against forces that would have shattered any other ship in the galaxy. Damage reports came in from various sections, but nothing critical was hit. Fighter squadrons. Launch when ready, Park ordered. The Indomitable's fighter bays opened like the jaws of some ancient predator. Angular craft poured out in perfect formation, their pilots trained in combat doctrines that the galaxy had never seen. Unlike the elegant automated fighters used by Imperial forces, these were flown by humans who took combat personally. Lieutenant Kim Soo-jin led the first squadron against the Syndicate raiders. Her fighter was built for one purpose: destroying enemy ships with maximum efficiency. No elegant curves or artistic design, just weapons and engines wrapped in the minimum amount of armor necessary for survival. "Fox Squadron, engage at will," she transmitted to her pilots. "Show these pirates what happens when they threaten human allies." The human fighters moved with deadly precision, their tactics refined through generations of warfare. They struck like a pack of wolves, coordinating attacks that overwhelmed enemy defenses through sheer aggression and determination. Within 30 minutes of the first shot, the feared Void Syndicate fleet was reduced to expanding debris clouds and desperately fleeing survivors. Warlord Grixtel, his flagship crippled and burning, managed to escape with less than a dozen ships from his original force of 300. The silence that followed was broken only by Captain Park's calm voice over the fleet communication channel. "Fleet. Admiral Zethkai, this is the Indomitable. Enemy fleet has been neutralized. We are beginning search and rescue operations for Imperial survivors. Request medical ships and engineering support." Across the scattered Imperial fleet, alien commanders stared at their tactical displays in complete disbelief. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of the battle reports reaching Nexus Prime. The Great Assembly Hall, usually filled with ceremonial dignity and careful protocol, buzzed with urgent conversations in dozens of languages. Holographic displays showed the wreckage at Nexus Gate, where an entire syndicate fleet had been destroyed by a single human vessel. Regent Colmar sat in his elevated throne, studying the tactical analysis with growing unease. For centuries, galactic military doctrine had evolved toward elegant energy weapons and sophisticated defensive systems. Kinetic projectiles were considered primitive, inefficient, barbaric. The civilized species had moved beyond such crude methods. The humans had just proven how wrong they were. Admiral Vexithara, his arm in a medical support device from his injuries during the battle, struggled to explain what had happened. His 6 eyes focused on the data displays with obvious confusion. "Their weapons are primitive by our standards," he said, his translator struggling with technical terms. "Kinetic projectiles, chemical explosives, nuclear fission warheads, but the destructive power is beyond anything in our databases." The Zephyrian representative, her crystalline form still showing stress fractures from the battle, added her own observations. "Their ship absorbed our most powerful energy weapons without significant damage. The armor composition is unknown, but effectiveness is undeniable." Commander Yoon So-jin sat in the same distant chair she had occupied for 3 years. But now every eye in the chamber was focused on her. The political landscape had shifted overnight, and she was no longer representing a minor species tolerated by galactic civilization. Fleet Admiral Zeth Kai, speaking through a medical communication device while recovering from his injuries, provided the most detailed analysis. "The humans fight as though they take the enemy's existence as a personal insult. Their tactical approach is unlike anything in our military databases." The data was clear and terrifying. One human ship had accomplished what the entire Imperial fleet could not. Where elegant alien vessels had been destroyed or forced to retreat, the primitive Earth vessel had systematically annihilated an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for decades. Emergency military consultation requests flooded Earth's diplomatic channels. Species that had dismissed humanity for years suddenly wanted tactical cooperation agreements, technology exchanges, joint training exercises. The Hegemony Navy formally requested human tactical advisors. The Etherian Collective wanted to study human combat psychology. Captain Park Dae-hyun received new orders as the Indomitable escorted a convoy of alien diplomats toward Earth. The same ambassadors who had ignored humanity were now competing to offer favorable trade agreements and defensive pacts. His ship's scarred hull, once seen as evidence of primitive construction, was now recognized as proof of combat experience. "Captain," said Commander Han So-young from her station, "we're receiving communication requests from 47 different species. They all want to discuss military cooperation." Park allowed himself a small smile. The same aliens who had laughed at human technology now wanted to learn from it. The galaxy was beginning to understand that human methods, while appearing primitive, were devastatingly effective. The diplomatic convoy included representatives from every major power in the galaxy. Beings who had never bothered to visit Earth were now eager to establish embassies and military training facilities. The Outer Rim colonies, previously defended by token Imperial patrols, requested human protection services. Admiral Vexithara's final report to the Galactic Council would change military thinking throughout civilized space. Recommendation: immediate. Reclassification of human military capabilities. These are not primitives playing with crude weapons. These are apex predators who have refined warfare into an art form. Earth's orbital defense platforms came into view as the convoy approached the Sol system. What the aliens saw challenged every assumption they had made about human civilization. The platforms were not elegant energy collectors or beautiful crystal formations. They were fortresses bristling with weapons and built to withstand anything the galaxy could throw at them. "By the void," whispered the Zephyrian ambassador, "their entire system is a military installation." Lieutenant Park Min-seo, monitoring communications from the bridge, reported increasing requests for asylum and protection. "Sir, we're receiving messages from 17 different colony worlds. They want to leave the Imperial protection system and join human space. The implications were staggering. The Galactic Empire, built on the assumption of technological and cultural superiority, was facing the possibility that their subjects preferred human protection to imperial promises. The Indomitable docked at Earth's primary orbital facility. Park reflected on what they had accomplished. They had done more than win a battle or destroy an enemy fleet. They had announced humanity's arrival as a power that could no longer be ignored or dismissed. The age of being underestimated was over. Humanity had been unleashed upon the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same. In the weeks that followed, human military advisors found themselves posted to alien fleets throughout Imperial space. Human tactical manuals were translated into hundreds of languages. The crude, brutal efficiency of human warfare became the new standard that every military force tried to copy. The Galactic Empire discovered that they had been harboring a sleeping giant. Humanity, dismissed as primitive and weak, possessed an approach to warfare that made them the most dangerous species in known space. The Empire had not been ready, but they were learning, quickly and expensively, that underestimating humans was a mistake made only once.